Instead of locking up our young people, maybe it's time we found jobs for them and education for them.
That guy you just saw giving that rousing speech, that's 73-year-old Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He's running for the Democratic nomination for president, and even though he'd be our oldest ever commander-in-chief, it turns out a lot of his biggest supporters are young enough to be his grandkids. And that is really going to matter in 2016 when just as many of us millennials will finally be able to vote as baby boomers. So why does the senior citizen have such a crazy passionate fan base among 18 to 35-year-olds? We asked some Bernie fans to find out, and it turns out this may be the biggest reason.
That is why I, as president, will fight to make tuition in public colleges and universities free.
I was lucky enough to not have to take on student loan debt in order to go to college, but a lot of my friends are now saddled with like 6 figures worth of debt, and anyone who got a postgraduate degree, they're paying that off for the rest of their life.
And I think most of all, just to be able to not have a student debt that follows me forever, it really would be great.
The young people we spoke to were also big fans of Bernie's BS-free delivery and his progressive stance on social issues.
He represents, men, women, men of color, women of color, disabled people, and especially the LGBTQ plus communities.
Making elections publicly funded, overturning Citizens United, breaking up the biggest banks, and those are just some of his policies that are the policies that we need.
I've always really dug Bernie Sanders. I think he's kind of a goofy, but really speaks his mind and genuine person.
He can't be bought.
But the big question is, can he beat out Hillary Clinton for the Democratic nomination? Bernie sure thinks so.
Would you be interested in being her vice president?
Would she be interested in being my vice president?
Mic drop. But seriously, Bernie's got good reason to be confident. Back in March, polls projected Hillary Clinton would grab 60.1% of the Democratic vote, with Bernie at just under 5%. Fast forward to September, and Bernie has surged to 24%, with Clinton tumbling to 42%.
Not everyone votes in primaries. It's the passionate voters that vote in the primaries, and Bernie's supporters are full of passion.
That they are. More than 100,000 people have shown up to Bernie's rallies in recent months. 100,000. I mean, those are Beyonce numbers, people. So while Sanders isn't a household name like Clinton or Bush or Trump, he's been at this whole politics thing for a long time.
He's fought for racial equality in the 60s. He marched on Washington with Dr. King. He led a sit-in to get the University of Chicago dorms desegregated when he was a student there.
He was in favor of same-sex marriage in the 70s. That's crazy.
Bernie's big jump from activist to bona fide politician happened in 1981, around the time the very first millennials were born, when he was elected mayor of Burlington, Vermont. And he's been in Congress since 1991, fighting for causes like raising the minimum wage and exploring alternative energy. So yeah, Bernie might be a senior citizen with wild white hair, but his dream of achieving civil rights, leveling the economic playing field, and tackling climate change is shared by a whole lot of millennials.
Frankly, I don't think his age has anything to do with it. I think that he's a very principled man, and I think where he stands on the issues is what excites our generation.
Share this if you're a millennial who's Team Bernie.
Oh man, if Bernie Sanders were in this room right now, I mean, first of all, I'd give him a hug. Just because he seems like a pretty huggable guy.